I I want everybody to know we are recording. I started the recording just a second ago. We still got a minute or so before people will jump on. We're going to keep watching quail videos over here. I'm hoping everybody can now hear me, and if you can't, just throw it in the chat and we'll see what we can if we can help. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I think we've got Caitlin taking notes and maybe watching the chat in there as well, and we'll just do what we've done in previous meetings. Questions that come up that we don't get to, I will send out notes tomorrow with answers to those as well. So if we don't get to a question, don't feel like we won't hit on that and give you an opportunity to get that answered. So a few things for today's meeting. Caitlin and Anna are going to do a piece on Windows 10 tips and tricks. We should have almost everybody upgraded to Windows 10. For the elementary and junior high teachers or middle school teachers, this is probably old hat because it's been a year now, but we've been working this fall on getting high school teachers upgraded, and we're about done with that. So now's a good time to maybe re-look at those tips and tricks and let them kind of go over some of that as well. But I want to start with a few things from the technology department so that everybody knows kind of what's been going on, because we haven't met since November. So over winter break, we did do a few things. The techs did touch every student device and upgraded the network card in those. The network card that was on there originally was released last February, so we did put an update to a card that was released, or a driver that was released in August or September. We're hoping that that helps some of the things we saw with map testing with some of those white screens. But we know that map testing starts this week, and we've got that schedule, so we're going to be hitting buildings just like we did last time. And if you guys need us over there, I think most of the building principals who want us over there for opening day have let us know that. Some of the other things they did upgrade all the action techs and put the new firmware on the action techs. I've had a number of conversations with buildings on the action techs, and my one regret with the action techs is maybe overselling it originally. Action Tech kind of oversold us with the way that they were channelizing things, and what we have found is Action Techs are great to start, but if it doesn't work, have that dongle close by. I've talked to some media specialists who've said teachers are throwing it in their desk and then they've got to search for it. It might be easier to just keep that always kind of plugged into the cable, so if you do have a problem, you can just plug into your Surface and go. Anna, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm sure you all know, but just in case, the Action Techs are the wireless display adapters that we put in to the projectors so that you could project wirelessly. Yeah. So if anyone didn't know that they're referred to as Action Techs, I was just going to clarify.
As I've been out in buildings, what I've heard from some of the buildings I've talked to is that we've kind of reached a kind of an interesting level with this, because teachers who really like to use it all the time, and then maybe the teacher next door doesn't use it and is just always plugged in, and so we don't have that interference. I know that we still have the possibility of that happening, but it's one of those things. It seems to be that we've reached some sort of balance with the action techs a little bit. We'd love it if we could ever get to the point where every teacher could use it 100% every minute of the day. We're just not quite there yet. So those are things that happened. I don't know if you need to notify buildings about those, but we wanted to let the TAT teams know that those changes had happened, so that if you see something or you hear something, you've got all that information. The next couple things are things that we think are items for your buildings, things that can be discussed in your buildings. The first one is the password change, and I sent that information out to the TAT group, and so what we found is some TAT teams pushed that out to their buildings, some didn't do that, some might be waiting for a meeting. We just want to make sure nobody has any questions about that and how that works and what systems that does. I did put together, and I've linked it in following slides, some information on how that works with the password. One of the things we found is that if you connected to the wireless using your password and you change your password, you now disconnect from the wireless. So I did create a YouTube video that explains how to reconnect to your wireless with the new password so that you can get logged back in. One of the other things that people didn't realize, and we rolled this out last year, does change your Sims gradebook password, but for principals, counselors, people who use desktop Sims, the full-blown version of Sims, it also changes that Sims password, and we had a lot of people who didn't realize that this year as well. So it's gotten to the point where that change password website, as we look at a single sign-on, in fact, my taste of technology today was on generically what we're doing with single sign-on. We're getting closer and closer to allowing teachers to have a single password for every system that we use in the district. And over the next few months, you guys are going to hear more about that and trying to incorporate systems that maybe you've done in your classroom on your own, and you're going to hear from us about how we can help incorporate those systems into a single username, not only for you, but for your students as well, so your students don't have to know multiple passwords. So are there any questions on the password change or the technology changes before I hand it over?
Does it affect print jobs you send from your device?
So great question. So I'm going to answer this in two parts. The first part is the print shop. The print shop system does not integrate with our change password site. So if you do the change password, you're still going to use the old password for that site, and I don't know if we'll ever get that put back in. The print jobs that you send where you scan your badge to get them off, the copier for instance, it will affect that, and the only way you can make that connection again or do that reconnection is to log out of your computer and log back in. And unfortunately, if you change your password at 8:30 a.m. and you spend all day sending print jobs to the copier and you go to get it, you're probably going to lose those print jobs. So what we've been recommending to people is when you change your password, maybe do it at the end of the day so that as soon as you do it, you can just log out of your computer. Next day you can come in, log in, and use your new password, and everything should be ready to go for you.
Another question, can you do the password change from home?
Yep, good question. Password change is just a website, and you absolutely can do it from home. Now, the one caveat to that is if you do it from home and you log off of your computer, you still will use the old password to log into your computer until you get in the district. It changes on the servers here, but your computer doesn't know about the servers here until you get back into the district. I know last year we had a lot of people who did this during staff meetings, and we were kind of hoping that after we got a couple years into this change password, it would be one of those things that maybe we didn't have to take time out of a meeting or take time out of TAT team members going and helping individual teachers. I think what we found last week, especially when people got back for the buildings who did it, is the fact that we just don't change passwords. We do it once a year. There are districts that do it every 90 days. If we did it every 90 days, it would probably be old hat and everybody wouldn't question it. It would be easy to do. I don't see us ever going to 90 days. I just think that once a year it meets the Microsoft requirements. We're meeting the Microsoft requirements, and I feel good about that. If you choose to change yours every 90 days because you're worried about security, you absolutely can do that. We're not stopping you from changing it. You can change it daily if you want to, and we wouldn't stop that, but all we require is once a year.
And another question that Tim answered, but I want to clarify. What deadline should we give staff members for getting their passwords changed? When we did it as a district last year, it was in January. Every building did it at a little bit different point, and really the deadline is 365 days from when the person changed it, is when they will no longer be able to receive email using the old password previously. So we'd like them to do it as soon as possible so they don't hit that deadline, because what we really want to avoid is them getting a message from Microsoft saying that it's time to change their password, and then having them do that through Microsoft instead of the change password website, because if they do that, it'll change their Office 365 password, but it won't change the password for all of the other systems. So we really want people to do it through that change password website, so that it keeps it as standard as possible. And then another question from a principal: how do we know if staff members have not updated their password?
Right now, we don't have a system for that. If they haven't updated, the system is they'll quit receiving email, and they're going to probably let somebody know that they're not getting email anymore. Although that's not a very good system. We'd like a better system than that. If they use the change password website, we can tell when the SQL database was changed. We've talked for a year, and we just haven't had time to do it, to build a report that would email teachers to say, hey, you got to do this in the next 2 weeks. Time's just gotten away from us, and now we're a year later. So maybe by next January we'll have that piece built. The other thing to think about here is Anna and I meet with new teachers every June, and we have new teachers do the change password website. Those teachers technically don't need to do it right now, but if you wanted to get them on a cycle with the rest of your buildings, it wouldn't hurt them to do it, because if they don't, then in June it's going to expire, and they won't have anybody there to help them change their password because they'll be at home. So I would encourage you, even if you have a teacher who says, well, I just did this last June or July, I'd still encourage them to make the change now. All right. If there are no other questions, I'm going to hand it over to Anna here.
And I'm going to hand it right over to Caitlin.
So we thought it was helpful, since everyone's on Windows 10, to talk about a couple tips and tricks that might be helpful for using your device. And the first one I want to point out, and these are in our notes, is if you can see my desktop, right down here on my taskbar is a button called the Task View. And what this button does is whenever I click it, it will spread out everything that is open on my computer. And this is true for student devices as well. So for the elementary, if you have students using Think Central or something that they have multiple windows open, this is a great trick to teach them so they can find either their reading that they're doing on another window or their writing they're doing in another program, and be able to toggle back and forth between the two. So again, it sits on the taskbar right down here, and it's just called the Task View. And when I want it to go away, I just click it again. So that's one quick tip and trick that's helpful for Windows 10, whether it's your machine or student machines. Another one of my favorite tricks is, and let me see if I can go back to the PowerPoint so you guys can see it, because I've added it here. Maybe. Nope. Okay. So if you're looking at your computer, on your keyboard, if you find the Function button, which is along the bottom row, and then the Windows button, which is right next to it, and the space bar. I'm going to go ahead and do it on Bill's computer so you can see what happens. But if I hit all of those at the same time, you saw my computer screen flash. And what that did is it created a screenshot of whatever is on my screen. And then if I wanted to go ahead and paste this somewhere, I'm going to go ahead and open up Word. So I'm going to go ahead and search down here for the program that I need. So once I took that screenshot, now I can go ahead, and it's actually saved in my clipboard. So if I do a Control V, it actually pastes that screenshot wherever I wanted it. So if you're having something going on your computer that you wanted someone to see it, you could always screenshot it and then Control paste it into an email for a ticket or anything else that you might use. These are just a couple tips and tricks, and I'm going to turn it over to Anna to talk about Firefox.
All right. So there are a lot of websites that we all visit pretty frequently, and I know some people have the shortcuts right on their desktops, but I wanted to show you in Firefox how you can really quickly and easily bookmark websites. So you'll notice right here I'm in Bill's Firefox, but I don't see the bookmark toolbar. So what you can do is come into the blank space and right click, and I'm going to check this bookmarks toolbar. And everything I'm showing you here is in the MTM, and we'll send a link out for the PowerPoint presentation and all of the rest of these things to share with your staff. But I just wanted you to be aware you don't have to frantically take notes because we're going to be sending this out. So now I have the toolbar available. So let's say I go to the district webpage and I want to bookmark this. It's as simple as whatever picture is right next to the URL. So I have the URL or the website here, and in this case the picture is this little eye. I'm just going to click on it and drag it down onto the toolbar, and now this website is bookmarked here. So every time I open up Firefox, it'll take us directly there. If I wanted to also go to the Office 365 webpage, once I'm logged in, I could do it right now also, but this little lock is the picture now. I'm going to drag it down here, and you can rename them if you want. So I could right click and then go to properties and change that. So I could say Office 365 and then click save, and now I have Office 365 bookmarked as well. So you can have as many bookmarks as you want. If it fills up the screen more than the space you have available, it'll just have a little arrow that you can click to see the rest of those. And this just helps me because I have websites that I constantly visit really readily accessible right here on my bookmark toolbar. So that I can get to them quickly without having to remember what they were or manually type them in. And there are a couple different directions for using other browsers. I showed you Firefox because it's one of the quickest and simplest browsers that you can use for bookmarking websites, but there are instructions for the other browsers as well, and those are in the MTM. So any other questions about Windows 10? We'll continue to show a couple of these other quick tricks and some of the things and ways that you can use things instructionally in your classroom. We just had a pretty full agenda today, so we're not going to go too deep into those kinds of things. So I'm going to go ahead and let Bill talk about the next piece.
So one of the places that we want the group to spend some time talking either later today or after we maybe at another TAT team meeting is how communication is working in general. I've been to a few buildings and had some conversations with TAT teams, and what we've noticed, and this isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I don't think we have a communication plan in general. And unfortunately, as we looked at these TAT teams, we didn't really get a plan out what the best type of communication looked like. And so we kind of put that in the hands of buildings, and what we're seeing is that different buildings are communicating differently. From our standpoint, or at least from mine, I don't want to put words into Anna's mouth. The difficulty with that is some TAT teams are taking the information and forwarding it out to their entire buildings. Other TAT teams told us in the feedback we got from the TAT teams, no, just send it to my entire staff, and then if they have questions, I can help them with that. But other people wanted to go to the TAT team. So we want to communicate with what makes sense for the larger scope. And we know that with 15 elementaries and 3 middle schools and 2 high schools, we're probably never going to be able to communicate exactly the way every building wants to. But we'd like every building to kind of have that conversation at some point to say, what should communication look like? What works the best? Is that me emailing TAT teams, or is it me emailing the entire district and telling them to go see their TAT teams? Is it one person from the TAT team becoming the head TAT person and my email is going there and then they send it? Is it going to the principals? And principals are probably, if we were in the same room, would be kicking me under the desk right now. Yeah, Belle is trying to kick me right now. But we want to just have that conversation. We want to communicate in the way that works for you and for your buildings, but we can help a little bit better if we know what works for you. So that's that's really a big part of this, and sending that feedback to Anna and I about what comes out of there, I think will be very helpful for us in the long run.
I think one thing that did go really well and we got good reception, I think it was the last TAT meeting, which would have been in November. Caitlin summarized the notes from the meeting in a really color-coded, organized way and sent it out to the TAT teams. And the TAT teams were then able to determine which information and how to share it with the rest of their building. So we'll continue to do that again. And when we do send that out, we will also send the prompt that we would like you to help us understand answering these questions here on this screen. So what's your how do you currently communicate information out to your building, and what's your preferred method, so that we can start to sort of aggregate all those responses and figure out the best way to do it. There are some things that you've noticed that Bill or somebody else will send out that is something that you can just forward that email straight to everyone in your building because it's self-explanatory. But some of the other things that are a little more complex, like the password change that has some nuances, like being sure to set your password to meet the criteria, that requires a little bit more than just an email forward. And so the goal would be that there's a plan that your TAT team shares at some meeting, whether it's the staff meeting, PLC, grade level planning, whatever that is, has a method of sharing that information in person with everyone in your staff in some way. We know that some TAT teams have a representative from every grade level, and so that works well for that method, but some TAT teams don't. And so ensuring that we are doing everything we can to support you to make sure that you are able to give that information to your staff in a way that makes sense. So if there's ever anything that doesn't, or you need clarification during the meetings or on things that get sent out, please let us know and we can absolutely clarify. And if it's something that you don't feel comfortable sharing with your staff, let us know. And that's that bottom piece. Bill or Tim or Caitlin, Aaron and I, all of us, or a couple of us are more than willing to come out to your staff and meet and talk and be able to clarify some of those things if there's ever any gray areas.
And yeah, I just want to expand on that real quick. I think all of us realize how busy everybody is, and so we don't want to set up a listening session and say, hey, we're going to be out at Anderson Grove on this date, because if things are working well for Anderson Grove, that could be a waste of everybody's time. But in the places that we've done it, it's been very effective. I met with Walnut Creek last week, and their TAT team just scheduled me to come out after school. And we worked for about 45 minutes to an hour, and they had their staff fill out cards about what's working well and what's not working. And we were actually able to, just sitting in that room, answer probably 90% of the cards. I think when I left, we ended up putting in 2 tickets, but most of the stuff that teachers weren't putting in tickets for because they thought it was a larger problem could be solved very quickly. And so sometimes it's just helpful to have somebody there listening to that and maybe making suggestions. So if that is something that comes up, I think any one of us would be happy to come out and have those conversations. You just need to schedule us and let us know. So are there any questions about that? All right. Well, if you guys want to put them in, I do want to mention one thing here, and there's going to be more information coming. In fact, the February meeting is probably going to go over quite a bit of this. Over winter break, we did switch to a new help desk system. This is going to be much easier for us. One of the pieces of feedback that we got from principals was, I have no idea what tickets are being turned in from my building. And I think as TAT team leaders, you guys are probably in the same boat. You don't know if a teacher put something in, and they may put something in that you look at and say, oh, I could have helped with that very quickly. So the new help desk system is going to have some options for us to create a portal for people to look up tickets to see what's happening with them. If we're waiting on parts, they'd be able to look at that. But we're also looking at creating what are called secondary portals so that the principals can log in, and maybe even the TAT team people can log in and say, okay, what tickets are open for our building? I shared with the principals in December, we are, for the first semester, down on tickets compared to the year before. And I think that that was a surprise to a lot of principals. But my fear is that because we don't have tickets going through one person, and I'll use the Walnut Creek example again here, there were things that were probably frustrating to teachers, but they weren't sure if it should be a ticket or not a ticket, and so that didn't go in. I think we probably have issues out there that should be tickets that aren't getting put in, but there's a fear about, well, I don't want to put that in and have somebody come out if it's just clicking the S key. And I don't know what the S key would do, but just as an example. So we're trying to get over that, and we just don't know what the best avenue is, and we do realize that the librarians last year took care of some of that, and so we're really working to try to find a balance there.
So if you just please remind your teachers that if something isn't working for them and they have asked a couple of the teachers around them and they've taken a quick look at the MTM and Googled it and can't solve it, please don't sit on it and let it continue to interrupt instruction. I know how frustrating that is as a teacher. So encourage them that at that point, please go ahead and put in a help desk ticket. And if it is something that's really simple, the help desk ticket can send a quick response right back and let you know what the fix is. And if it's not something that has a quick fix, then they can send somebody out as quickly as possible. So it seems like there's a little bit of fear and reluctance to put in help desk tickets because they don't want to overwhelm, but I think that what I hear from the technology department is that they'd all really like those tickets to get put in so that they can help when the problem starts occurring instead of letting it get to a frustration level.
We got a couple questions that came in here. We've had several people receive a password out of sync notification. And that can happen for a few different reasons. When you go to change your password, if you don't get 3 green lines with what's changing, then automatically a help desk ticket is entered. Those are being assigned, I think, to Steph Irwin right now, and so she should be contacting you. If she hasn't, or if you haven't heard anything, it does not hurt at all to say, hey, let's call the help desk and see where this ticket sits, and somebody can help you out from that standpoint. The other question that came in is, when's the February meeting? We've got it scheduled for February 7th right now. I haven't looked at the calendar to know if there's anything going on around the district, but I'm assuming February 7th is kind of what we're shooting for. So, and we'll be at Carriage Hill live Skyping on the 7th.
And then going back to what Bill said about the password out of sync notification, a few different things can cause that. One of them can be if the password criteria meets one system but doesn't meet another. In other words, for Office 365, it can't be the last 5 passwords that you've used, and it has to have at least 3 of the 4 capital letter, number, special character, lowercase letter. So if it doesn't have 3 of those, it could change it on some systems, but not all of them. So that's what would occur when you do that. So the best and easiest way to prevent that happening is make sure that teachers know the password criteria. And it's in the information that Bill sent, but we can sure send it again if you don't remember or don't have that, what the passwords need to be. Another thing that might happen, let's say, if your name is Mary Smith and you have your password that says like Martin something, it's using 3 characters that are in your first name or your last name, and so it won't let you do that. So again, that criteria is out there, but that's what could be causing that message when your password works for some systems but not for all of them.
One of the best suggestions I heard last year, and I think it was Anna who made this suggestion, is when you find a password that works, the great thing about doing it in January is this could become your 2017 password. So if you used a password, something, Mocha is my dog's name, Mocha 2016 with a capital M, which is not my password, by the way, and next year you just changed it to 2017, you know it's going to work because it met all the requirements the previous year, so just changing that 6 to a 7 isn't going to break it. Yeah.
For the sync thing, if it says it's out of sync, will it work for some of the systems but not the others?
Mm-hmm.
They have to recreate the password or change that again?
Yeah, the question was, if you get that out of sync message, will it work for some passwords but for some systems but not for others? And yes, that is true. If you don't get the 3 green confirmation messages, it'll let you know where the password was changed. It'll give you an idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so it could work in some places but not in others. So when Steph contacts you or the help desk contacts you, they'll go through that, but you will have to do the full password change again.
I do want to be cognizant of everybody's time, and we said that when we started this, we would try to keep all of these to half an hour, so if buildings wanted to meet afterwards, they could. If there are any questions, like I said, throw them in the chat real quick, but if not, feel free to send them to me probably, and then when I send the video out, I'll try to answer any extra or additional questions we get from the group. So I do want to say thank you for everybody. We had a great turnout. I know it's been a while since we've met, but I'm glad to see this turnout, and hopefully we'll get the questions answered for some of the communication stuff and get the password stuff done here in the next couple weeks. Anything else that you can think of?
All right. Thanks,
All
everyone.
right. Thanks, everyone.